Eleanor Roosevelt lived from 1884 to 1962 and was born on October 11th in New York City. As a child, Eleanor was shy and insecure and was the firstborn of 3 children. Eleanor was blessed in her lifetime but also faced many hardships. A few of her hardships were her father was an alcoholic, both her parents and one brother died before she was 10 years old, and because her parents died, Eleanor was raised by her grandmother, who was harsh and critical and damaged Eleanor's self-esteem as a child. In 1899, Eleanor began her 3 years of study at London's Allenwood Academy. While in school, she became confident in herself and grew to be more independent. One teacher opened Eleanor up to the world of ideas and was an early force in Roosevelt's social and political development. After returning to New York in 1902, Eleanor became involved with the Settlement House movement, teaching immigrant children and families on Rivington Street. In 1905, she married her distant cousin, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who was a Harvard graduate that was in his first year of law school at Columbia University. Her uncle, President Theodore Roosevelt, walked her down the aisle, and the Roosevelts had 5 children, 1 girl, and 4 boys. When Franklin was elected to the New York State Senate, the couple moved to Albany, and 2 years later they moved to Washington, D.C., so Franklin could join Woodrow Wilson. Eleanor was uncomfortable in the political scene, but began growing more comfortable. When World War I hit, Eleanor volunteered with various relief agencies, which only furthered her visibility. In 1918, Eleanor found out her husband had had an affair, but she stayed married to him even though her feelings toward him changed. She became more independent and often escaped to her upstate New York home, where she was also part of a women's furniture corporation. She remained his political ally and advisor. Initially wary of women's suffrage after its passage in 1920, Roosevelt prompted women's political engagement, playing a leadership role in several organizations, including the League of Women's Voters and the Women's Trade Union League. She surrounded herself with politically astute women such as Molly Dewson and Rose Snyderman. Though unhappy about his bid for the governorship and presidency, Eleanor became the most politically active and influential First Lady in history, using the position to advance many of her progressive goals. Being the First Lady in the White House from 1933 to 1945, Eleanor wrote nearly 3,000 articles in newspapers and magazines, including a monthly column in Women's Home Companion, where she asked the public to share their stories, hardships, and questions. In a few short months, she received several 100,000 responses and donated what she earned. Eleanor also authored 6 books and held weekly press conferences. Eleanor had a huge influence on her husband's decisions and in shaping the New Deal. Eleanor lobbied her husband to appoint more women, which led her to securing Frances Perkins as the first woman to head the Department of Labor. These are just a few of the things that Eleanor Roosevelt did as the First Lady.